is where we discuss the possibilities.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. Kori at the Diet Doc, health psychologist, wellness director, and vice president, and I'm here today again with my partner, Dr. Joe Klemczewski. Welcome to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're back, welcome back. We are in the middle of a series that's part of our Motivational Mastery section, all about goal pursuit. And I believe we're in, what is this, Joe? Number 7. All right. Today we're talking about the principles of persistent pursuit. So guys, these are the primary factors that are aligned with successful goal pursuit. And I'm going to go through each of the 11 factors fairly quickly, but get out your pen and paper so you can take some notes. And I want you to be asking yourself a question as I'm going through them. Do you have what it takes to stay engaged in and achieve the dream or the activity that you're interested in? So these 11 factors are going to help you determine just that. And you might rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being no way, and 10 being hell yes. Okay, ready, Joe?
Yeah, so let me get this straight though. It's okay. The 11 principles of persistent pursuit.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I've got my Dr. Seuss filter on properly there.
You know I love alliteration.
I know you do. Good, I'm ready.
It helps me remember. So here's number 1, guys. Future self. Okay, the goal is relevant to your future identity. Number 2 is autonomy. So this goal is chosen by you, for you, and it provides a sense of personal power. All right. Number 3 is intrinsic worth. So the importance of this goal comes from within. All right. Number 4 is connection. So this goal is one that others can support you in pursuing and that has the potential to create a greater sense of belonging for you. Number 5 is competence. And so this means that the goal has the potential to improve your skills, your abilities, and your knowledge. Number 6 is utilitarian value. So the goal's outcome would be of use to you in a very practical way, and it'll benefit your life in a useful manner. What am I on? 7? This is resource acquisition. So this is where you get to ask yourself if you have the resources available to achieve this goal. And resources, think about internal resources like emotional capacity, flexibility, behavioral flexibility, and agility. And then external resources, and that might mean money, it might mean friends and a support network. Here's 8, energetic capacity, okay? So this means that you have the energy to put toward the goal amidst all of your other responsibilities in your life, your duties, your obligations, and other things that you would list as important. Number 9 is competing commitments, okay? So if you pursue the goal, you can honestly say that you can prevent or avoid the loss of other important things in your life. So this is an important piece because you need to look at what are you prioritizing in your life, and will this goal move you forward in a way that doesn't have you squelching other super important things in your life. Number 10 is self-efficacy. So this means that the goal is one that you believe you can achieve. That belief is super important. And then 11 is delay lag, okay? This means that the goal is going to have very prompt, very measurable results that are going to help prevent delayed action and dragging your feet. All right, those are the principles. Joe,
awesome.
What do you think so far? Anything like ping your brain as I went through them?
Yeah, well, first of all, just the title of the topic because you use the word persistent. And I mean, that alone should give you this umbrella understanding that pursuing a goal and accomplishing something takes work. And I noticed in all 11 of your principles, almost all of them have some kind of a forward trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just check this off your list and you're good to go. So, things like, do you have the resources to pull this forward? Mm-hmm. Is it something that's going to help you, beyond just the goal with competence and even what you said about, instant, not having that delay lag. Mm-hmm. I think any kind of long-term goal, as I said before, has kind of a story arc, but then you have to have, the plot twist and your character is changing and there's development in the story. Mm-hmm. There's got to be some payoff every step of the way. So mm-hmm. yeah, I love them all.
I like to do this assessment prior to beginning a goal to kind of get grounded around whether there are some certain things that I maybe need to look at or have into place or build up before taking action. But then secondarily, say that I'm already engaged in a goal, I am taking concerted action and making efforts. This assessment is something that I will pull out periodically along the way to just kind of gauge where I'm at and to ensure that I'm, like you said, progressing and that there's a forward trajectory, and to kind of look at it and ask, are there certain things that are getting in my way currently that are making this more difficult than it needs to be? Or are there things that I can kind of look out into the future and see maybe potential barriers? And, what I see in my practice and work with a lot of our clients in particular is that they may jump into action right away without having done their due diligence in asking, what might be the barriers that I'm going to run into here? What difficulties might I bump up against? And how can I prepare for those ahead of time? Are there certain people that I need to talk to? My spouse, my partner, my kids, my friends? And oftentimes it's that the relational aspect, I think, when we look at goals surrounding health and fitness and changing nutrition, that cause a little bit and or a lot of difficulty for people in navigating.
Yeah, and I love that, and it reminds me another bit of irony. I just started reading a book this week on how creativity is formed, and there's some social science to this, but I in the past I've really focused on the neural noetic formation of creativity, meaning that our brain is like a computer, right? So whatever information is coming in there, even subconsciously, are the pieces we have to then create something with. Mm-hmm. And thinking of goals in this book, they use two examples of Paul McCartney and Mozart. Mm-hmm. And very famously, some stories go that they are just very creative people that just, you're born with it or you're not. You're going to accomplish something with almost immediate inspiration. That's a literal theory. And when you backtrack and do the research on how these people created things, nothing could be further from the truth. So I'll tell you one that was just a blatant lie. It is said, you can go to Wikipedia anywhere, Mozart created his first full, symphony by the time he was 4 years old. He used to write things that were fully edit or zero perfect, without any edits whatsoever. And in fact, that was just a lie that they made up to create a myth. Mm-hmm. He spent 14 years of studying like a dog because his dad made him do this, and then created, after massive edits, his first symphony when he was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. So the reason I like those kind of stories is it shows that pursuing a goal isn't like winning the lottery. It's like, well, I'll just try and pursue all of these things and maybe I'll hit with one. No, I mean, pick something that's going to encompass all of these 11 points, even the 8 principles we talked about a couple episodes ago. We've got the PERMA alliteration that goes through the kinds of things that we need for these grounding values. So many of these things just point to the fact that it's going to take some dedication. And I like what you just said, tying it to connection with other people, because these things don't happen usually in isolation.
Well, I think what you're getting at, which that I love, is there are going to be multiple iterations. If this is a long-term goal, I mean, I can set a goal to, run down the road. That's going to take me 10 seconds. Okay, fine. But if this is a long-term goal that's attached to my future identity, and I've assessed that along the way, I'm literally going to become a new person. When I get there, I'm going to have new skills, new abilities. I'm going to have new thoughts. I'm going to have new principles. My way of seeing the world is going to shift. Because honestly, when I set a long-term goal, that is the goal. Is that this entire process is going to be, it's going to transform me. And I want it to. That's the whole point for me in doing it. And I think the other thing that you've alluded to also with these multiple iterations, it's like, if we look at the brain as a computer, because I don't necessarily look at the brain like a computer, but we could say this is Kori 1.0, and this is Kori 2.0, and this is Kori 3.0, and this is Kori 4.0. I'm developing through the pursuit of this goal multiple iterations of my operating system. And when we look at it that way, I think we are much more likely to stay persistent. And it reminds me.
Go ahead.
Well, it reminds me of Angela Duckworth's concept of grit. It's passion, it's energy, it's motivation, it's drive, plus persistence. And even in the flow research, and we talked a couple podcasts ago about flow, and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, did you catch that? That like flowed right off my tongue. He showed that among people who are peak performers, who get into the flow state more often than others, they have a higher level of just drive and motivation, and they're able to focus with such clarity to get there. Huge piece of it, passion plus persistence equals the grit to go and flow.
I think that's the biggest piece. And I started thinking through this series that maybe we're making too much of it on a meta high value, like maybe somebody just has a small goal. But I thought through that, and I thought that's really not true. Like I was thinking, okay, maybe I have a goal to clean the garage, or I have a goal to, I don't know, shop for a new car. Like, to me, that's not a goal. That's a checklist. So I think when talking about goal pursuit, people have to first understand that it really is probably a life-changing deal. And like you just said, it's going to transform you into somebody else. If you're pursuing a goal that's that big, this is what we're talking about. It takes these things. And that's why I loved, when I reviewed that Nietzsche information about most people who achieve big goals have one life unifying project. And it might be one at a time that encompasses a major part of your life, and then it takes you to another place. But if you want to achieve something, and let's continue to use the goal of something like major weight loss. Somebody has to lose 50 pounds, 75 pounds, transforming their physical life. You and I know that is a change from the inside out. If you're going to be successful, you have truly become a new person. You didn't just improve your health.
No, you're exactly right. What an individual who is going to embark on a journey, let's call it a journey, it's a pilgrimage to becoming a new person, what they have to go through and reflect upon beforehand and during it's substantial and crucial. No, I just received an email this morning from a client, and she said to me, the easiest thing right now would be to give up. I'm not going to. 2-sentence email. That's what she said. And like my heart goes for her because she's clearly in a massively uncomfortable place. My second thought was, it's going to be a lot more uncomfortable for you if you give up. Like right now, it sucks. Like this sucks big time. There's disappointment, there's discouragement, there's probably shame. And if you did give up, all of that would be magnified.
Mm-hmm.
And that's often the piece I think that we forget.
I wonder, Kori, if there does anything come close to the two things that you and I deal with on a daily basis? Number one, we help people, and we've dedicated our careers to helping people through their physical health and their emotional health, especially with your career in psychology. So that's them at a core level, becoming, the best version of themselves. But we also do fitness business mentorship. We have our Diet Doc licensing program. We have program owners around the world. And oftentimes those people are making dramatic changes. Here's what I've been doing for a living. This has been my career. And now I want to pursue this. And again, that's a massive undertaking. Takes a lot of time, a lot of diligence, a lot of work, a lot of planning, all the things we're talking about. What other areas do you think people encounter their biggest decision points for goals?
Relationships.
Okay.
Big one. Okay. I mean, yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. How would you plan or pursue, or what questions do you ask yourself in making those kind of changes?
Well, I'll use myself as an example. I spent 5 years pursuing a PhD, and during that time, I had to ask myself, as I went, if we go through these principles of persistent pursuit again, are there certain areas of my life that I am going to willingly, and maybe not necessarily comfortably, but willingly put on the back burner so that I can do this? And relationships, like a romantic relationship, was one of those things. I was not going to be dating. That I just couldn't even fathom how that could happen. At the same time, working 60 hours a week, doing my PhD another 20 hours a week, there was, and still taking care of my fitness. And that was the one thing that was going to stay. There were certain things that were going to stay, and there were certain things that were going to go. And a relationship was one of them. So while dating was put on the back burner, what I did make time for and prioritized was knowing that that was going to be a goal I would pursue post PhD. There was a lot of reflection about it. And I would listen to podcasts from relationship experts and researchers in that area. I was asking myself questions about what my personal values were. And if I were to visualize and imagine me being in partnership with a person and it going the way that I perceived would be ideal, what would that look like? So I spent time on assessing what that part of my life could potentially look like once I was able to then put more energy and effort into it with people.
And what a great
answer to your question, though.
No, what a great explanation, showing how we do have those creative, flexible parts of our lives. When you look at a romantic relationship, you want spontaneity and freedom and all of that stuff, and not, you're not going to clinically plan out, here's how I'm going to date. But at the same time, you asked yourself those questions. You gave some concessions to the fact that this is not going to be a good thing for me right now. So I'm at least not going to actively pursue it. There's just a lot of cognitive integration that you used in making that a goal, but you still had it as a goal. When I'm finished with school, then I'm going to be ready. I'm going to have thought through some things. So you're still putting some of your time and effort into that. But it's a great view of, as I said, both sides of your brain integrating toward a goal.
It wasn't, well, and I think it's important for people to understand, I think, that if something keeps coming up for them, they continue thinking about it. Like, it's always knocking on the door. That's not something you ignore. It may not mean that you need to go for it, but it may mean that it needs a little bit of your attention and your energy to tease it apart and maybe get to know it and understand it. That was always knocking on my door. Like, I want to be in partnership with someone. That's super important to me. And at the same time, with the way that the PhD demanded so much of my energy, dating itself was not. I did not perceive it as possible, but these other things were. And so some of these principles of persistent pursuit, I was putting into place. I was imagining my future self in partnership. I was assessing, like, what I want that connection to look like. What resources internally do I really want to resource? What resources do I want to resource and need to resource and learn about and build skills around in order to be the best partner that I can potentially be when I do meet this person? And, part of that is that's impossible without the actual partner, because in the way that I view relationships, the other person is a mirror for what our inadequacies and our weaknesses and the areas that we need to build up are. So you can't do that all by yourself. And if you think you can, well, then you're in for a rude awakening because you're going to be in partnership with someone who's different than you. But yeah, Joe, I could go on a tangent. To your point, it wasn't something that I could take immediate action on in a certain way, but there were actions taken because I could look into the future and say, this is important enough to me that I am going to pursue it later.
And that's why I got so excited in our last episode about organization and spreadsheets, flowcharts, journals, all of that, because here's something that was clearly important to you, but you couldn't make it the biggest priority. But you were still checking in with that goal, doing some things proactively to make sure when it did have its turn as a high priority, you were ready. And I'll wrap up this podcast like this, just coming back to all 11 principles being principles of persistence. As I said, that takes some integration, because a goal and something that's going to be transformative in your life has some very massive creative elements. And in this book, The Creative Curve I'm reading, they talked about, Paul McCartney, the number 2 covered song in history is Yesterday. And that's the song. Paul McCartney wakes up and he says, oh my gosh, this melody came to me in a dream. And he wrote down every chord that he heard in this dream. And he thought, that couldn't have just happened. This has to be a melody I've heard. And so he spent 2 years working on the song, to the point where his bandmates, his producer, they're like, would you just get done with this freaking song? And yet, because it was so creatively powerful to him that he wanted to be that persistent and diligent with getting it right. And even though it's one of the most unique and different out of all of their catalog in the Beatles' music, it was their number 2 copied song in the world. 1,400 versions of this exist right now. So again, the combination of creativity with persistence as you said, it's got to be something that you're going into to become a new version, best version of you. If a goal is that important, you're probably gonna work for it.
You'll be transformed. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So Joe, what do you think? Should I go through these one more time, just so everyone has them?
Yeah, feel free. Just roll right through them, and then we'll probably put them in print in the description.
You bet. We'll put it in the show notes, guys. 1 is future self. 2, autonomy. 3, intrinsic worth. 4 is connection. 5, competence. 6, utilitarian value. 7, resource acquisition. 8, energetic capacity. 9, competing commitments. 10, self-efficacy. 11, delay lag.
And one of the things we're going to do next, guys, we're creating a resource, a life mastery goal pursuit checklist. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be rolling that out in the next couple episodes. And we hope it's something that you can take with you very tangibly to say, man, now I have exactly what I need to do. I can go through understanding the values, my character strengths, the points of persistence that I need to be checking off. So it's going to be good as we wrap this up, Kori.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you. And thanks, guys.